here in the south, we are a secular nation, and local government system has to be introduced in South Sudan because it is the government of the people.
In countries emerging from conflict and war, the transfer of decision-making power and resources to local governments is seen as an effective strategy to rebuild the relations between citizens and the state. Many post-conflict countries have embarked on this process of decentralization. In a country like Uganda, the people experienced local governance for more than a decade. In other countries, like here in South Sudan, the first steps towards a new decentralized society are just being taken.
I was a local government officer before the war in Sudan. So as a local government officer, I had to join the movement so that I fight for the independence of South Sudan. When I went to the bush, I kept the spirit of local government in my heart.
For lands, particularly where conflicts are rotating around land, it's mainly the local people who know the boundaries of whatever land in conflict. And therefore, bringing in a central approach to resolving that dispute is a little bit misplaced.
Countries that have just abandoned a period of war face a difficult task to overcome the chaos and disruption caused by the former conflict.
During 50 years of civil war in the Sudan, has brought firearms into the hands of the people. You know, people used to fight with the spears and sticks. But when arms have come into their hands, they have become using them for killing themselves, then for robbing cattle of other people, and all this because to fight with the rifle is not as hard as fighting with the spear, because you have to be brave enough to come nearer to that person so that you spear. But with the rifle, you shoot the person very far there. So these young men, they like it.
Sometimes what causes insecurity or lack of peace are issues of resources. People complain, you know, they say, why my area is marginalized, another one is saying that, and so forth. Now, with power to plan, with power to receive funding and the resources according to agreed formula, then that is thrown back to the people themselves, to plan for themselves, to be able to look after themselves, and to be able to realize what they want. So it has reduced what would have been tension between or conflicts between different ethnic groups or different areas, suspecting that one area is more marginalized.
In other words, it's important that certain conditions are met before decentralization will work. Citizens should be confident that the authorities are able to exercise their power fairly to the benefit of all people.
Our government has taken a very good step now for disarming the civil population. Those arms should be brought out. And then after that, we will go back to educate them so that we take our traditional way of settling the disputes between tribes and between pastoralists and so on.
When you empower people to look after themselves in terms of effective leadership, they would want to see peace in their area in order to be able to carry out the mandates that they have promised their people to carry out.
The traditional authority are the most powerful tool to settle conflicts among the people, among the tribes and the clans and so on. Like in areas of grazing, like cattle wrestling, like tribal fights, it was the chiefs that used to settle these problems.
But the road to a decentralized government is a long one. It cannot be expected that it is achieved in a fortnight, as we can learn from Uganda.
The conception for decentralization started in 1989, but it required a lot of consultation, it required a lot of getting people's views and so forth, so that by 1993 we started decentralization, but on pilot basis. Out of the many districts that were there then, we only started with 13 of them to see whether it was going to work and to help us correct whatever situations that could have been created. So when it was found out that it was after all working so well in the 13 districts, it was then extrapolated to all the districts. So all the districts are under decentralized governance.
Traditional authorities and local and national governments carry heavy responsibilities in rebuilding a country after times of conflict. But fortunately, good lessons and even resources can be found abroad. What can be expected from the international community in a national process towards local governance?
The international community came in particularly with funding of some of the activities. Also the expertise. You know, we're talking about, we need people who have gone through different trainings, different experiences to come in to help in strengthening whatever sectors that decentralization may have decided on. So the expertise, then capacity building in terms of making the people acquire the skills they require to keep on with the decentralization.
We don't want them to come and do it, or otherwise we will develop what we call dependency syndrome, which will be very bad when the donors go away, but we are an independent country. So we will remain alone, but we need the help now to educate us, to raise our capacities of how able we can do this, and even if they go away, we remain alone to handle our problems.
For sure, especially for Southern Sudan, where it's a new country, a lot of suspicion as to who is handling which resources, a lot of suspicion as to where could our resources be taken and so forth. Decentralization is the right way to go. However, they will need to do a lot of comparative studies in order to get what fits for them, because Southern Sudan is far bigger than Uganda, and the way it is structured in terms of administrative units is slightly different. So there's a lot that needs to be compared. But the bottom line is people must be given opportunities to govern themselves, to plan for themselves, to budget for themselves, and to monitor themselves. Those are the ingredients of decentralization. So it creates the ownership in the population about their own governance.
So this is energizing me, you see, to think of like those days when our people used to settle their problems alone. They sit under the tree and they settle the problems. You begin with one person, and then you go to persons, and then you go to a tribe, and so on. And if this happens among all the tribes in South Sudan, to respect each other and to respect the cultures of others, and all, there will be no conflict.